Welcome friends to Farm Fresh Designs 59. This video today is part of the IOD Summer Collections Release playlist. If you want to see other videos from this playlist, please click the link in the description box below. In my video today, I will be highlighting the new mold titled Persephone. I have 4 projects today and they will all be completely different. So my first project is a oval wood shape that I thrifted, and I'm going to be using Rust-Oleum chiffon cream, and I'm going to be mixing salt wash in it. So the consistency that I'm looking for today is somewhat like cake icing. So I just put the salt wash in it and stir it around really good until I'm happy with the result. Now as I begin to brush it onto this wood piece, I move my brush around in different directions instead of just brushing straight down because I want that added texture and those added brush strokes. And I go all around the sides and cover the entire piece. Now this is just something I thrifted, and it's a little plastic wall planter, and I see these a lot in my thrift shops. And I also paint it with the salt wash mixture. But I do not paint the back of it because I'm going to be attaching it to that wood piece. And even though that wood piece will already have paint on it, I just feel like it will adhere to that surface a lot easier if I don't have paint attaching to paint, if that makes sense. And then I will also paint down about 1.5 to 2 inches on the inside of it so you don't see that gray. Now with this particular mold, I'm going to be making the first one with resin for this particular project. Now this mold needs 159 milliliters of resin. And so each of those little cups will hold 50 milliliters. So I've already put 25 milliliters of part A, which is the clear, into the cup. And I will pour in the part B one by one, and then I go ahead and stir it and pour it in. Now if I went on and poured in part B into all of those cups and then tried to stir it and then pour it in, it would already be setting up inside of those little cups. So I just do each little cup at a time, and then my last little cup will only have a total of 10 milliliters of resin, so that I don't have a lot left over. And then I'm just using like a little popsicle stick to push that resin all the way out to the edge. And this is the amazing casting resin that actually will set up in about 10 minutes, and it is white when it is all set up. And you'll see that it's already turning white. And then when you take it out, because this mold is rather large, then when it comes out, it's pretty warm because that resin heats up. So I wait for just a little bit before I paint it, and I also use that paint with the salt wash in it. So I have attached the mold onto that piece of wood as well as the little planter. And so now I'm going to be making some molds out of clay. And this particular mold is the IOD Olive Crest. So the reason that I'm using clay on these particular molds is because I need to stretch them out and make them appear to be just a little bit longer, as opposed to the way that they're curved around in this mold, so that they'll go almost around little Persephone's head. But if I used resin, I would have to take that mold out even just a little bit before it was completely set up so that it would be more pliable. So it's just easier this time to use clay. And once I put my clay in after putting cornstarch in and I push it out to the edges, then I like to use like a little gift card or credit card to smooth it out on the back side. And then you can see how I'm stretching out that little laurel wreath, and it's not curving around quite so much. And then I'll be putting that down with Titebond glue as well. And now there's going to be a little spot up at the top where I need to add a mold, and I'm going to be using a piece out of the IOD Classic Elements, and I also make that out of clay. And then there's going to be still just a little bit of a gap between the laurel wreaths and that other piece. So I will be going back to my olive crest mold, and there's some little pieces that I describe as looking like little parentheses, and I'm going to be using those pieces to attach the side pieces and the top piece, just so that all of those molds go completely around. So once my molds have been glued on for about 10 or 15 minutes, then I like to go ahead and paint them, and I'm using the Rust-Oleum Chiffon Cream, but this time it doesn't have any salt wash in it. And the reason that I go ahead and paint them now is because it really does help reduce cracking. And so that's just something that I always do. Now, you don't have to. Some people like to wait until the next day to paint them when they're a little bit more dry. But that's just what my preference is. So I let it sit overnight because I wanted to make sure all of it was set up really good. And then I went in with just a clear wax and went all over the piece on the wood and on the different molds and then on the little planter that is attached. Now, after that wax has been sitting around maybe 15 to 30 minutes, it begins to feel a little tacky. And then I'll be coming back in with another brush, and I will be using Dixie Belle Dixie Dirt, and it's in the color Ash. And I just kind of dab that all around it. I do not brush any of it off, and I just take my time because I need it to look just like it's been sitting outside for quite some time. And this sort of mimics what you might see on the outside of like a villa, where it's just made out of plaster or concrete, and it might have like a little faucet in it, and the water kind of runs into that little planter, and then it will funnel back around. And so that's what I'm wanting it to look like. And this part is pretty messy because that's just some loose, like little ash. And so it kind of makes a mess, but it's worth it in the long run. But I won't be putting this outside. But with this little wall planter, this is something that you could put on maybe a covered porch, or you could put it on the inside and you could put some faux greenery in it. Or you could even use it in the bathroom to maybe put some little washcloths or something like that. So what do you think? So if you're enjoying the video so far, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel and become part of our family. Now with my next project, once again, I have made a mold out of resin, and it has set up really well. And I've got a block of wood on my desk, and now I'm using a drill, and I'm going to be drilling in 3 different holes down at the bottom. So I kind of eyeballed where the middle was and put the first hole, and then I measured out 1 inch on either side and put another hole on it. But that block of wood is on my desk so that, well, I won't actually drill through my desk. So have you figured out already what this might be? So now what I'm going to be doing is attaching it to like a little wood plaque. And this is actually something that I've used before. So I'm just going to flip it over on the back. And it looks like a little wooden shield. And it's painted with Rust-Oleum Blush Pink. And I also paint the resin mold with this same pink as well. But I do not use salt wash on this particular project. So before I attach the resin mold, what I then do is I pull out my IOD Veranda stamp. And I'm going to be using on this stamp set the smaller lattice, and I'm stamping it with IOD Stone Gray ink. So I've got it on a little thin mount, and when I put my stamp down, this is a little tool that I got off of Amazon, and it just helps when you've got those bigger stamps. And it's really important when you use a stamp, when you put it on, whether you have this little tool or not, when you get ready to pull it off of this particular piece, you pull it straight up or you pull it very quickly from the side so that it doesn't smear. And then I go back down and finish up at the bottom. But I love this stamp, and it is so easy to match up the lines on this particular lattice design. And then once again, I will be adding my mold onto this little wooden shield with Titebond Thick and Quick, which is the blue and the gray bottle. And these are just little white cup hooks that I get at Walmart. And I'm going to be putting those in the holes. And I like to dip them in my glue just to kind of make sure that they don't come out or loosen up later. And this is actually going to be something that I can hang on the wall, and it can be to hang necklaces on or whatever you would like to hang on it. But because that resin is so permanent, it makes it real easy to use these different molds in different sorts of ways. Now, because both of them are pink and I want to highlight all the details on this particular mold, I pull out my Dixie Belle white wax and I put it only on the mold, and I put it really heavy, especially on her hair and then her facial features and then the little neckline. And then I put it all over it, but I wipe it back more where it's more smooth, and I let it stay in those little grooves so that it can pull out that detail. And I just think she's so pretty. So what do you think? Okay, for my next project is going to be in a different color. So this is some rice paper from Decoupage Central, and I'll make sure to put that in the description box below, but it has a really pretty green color in it. And so this is just a thrifted frame, and I'm not putting the glass in it. And this is just the back of this particular picture. And it is already that color. I didn't have to paint it. So when I put that decoupage paper on it, because it's just like a cardboard, I just put it on with a glue stick and then use a brayer to smooth it out really well. And then trim off the edges of that rice paper. And I'm going to paint my frame with Dixie Belle Collard Greens, which is one of the colors that's in that rice paper. Now this time, I'm using air dry clay in my mold, so I put my cornstarch in it, and then I just use big chunks of clay instead of trying to find one really big piece of clay to fit inside. That way it makes it a little bit easier, and I just push it out to the edge, and then I will go back over it with a little credit card to smooth it all out. But this mold is really deep, and so it takes just a little bit to get all of that clay in it. And then when I do use my credit card to smooth it out, I don't push it really hard, because sometimes if you push that card up against the clay too hard, then it will actually pick up that clay and distort the image up underneath. So just take your time and go over it really smoothly. Now I'm also going to be making the symmetrical pieces off of the Viridis mold that came out this spring. And I will be putting both of those symmetrical pieces on one side of this frame. Now because the glass is not inside this frame anymore, that particular mold is going to kind of roll over onto that frame and also onto that mat. So because I haven't completely decided what color I'm going to finish it off with, I go ahead and paint those molds with Dixie Belle Fluff, which is kind of an off-white. And then I make a mold from the IOD Cameo mold set, and it's the very smallest Cameo. And I will be gluing that down to the base of her neck as if it was the charm on a necklace. And then on the IOD Acanthus mold, there's a little strip, and it's these little beads that start out bigger and come all the way down and are really narrow. And I'm going to be using that very narrow part to make something that would look like a chain that little charm would hang from. And then when I get it all molded up, then I lay it over onto that little Persephone, and then I'll have to cut it off just a little bit, because I'm not sure exactly how long it needs to be on either side. So now I pull out my Dixie Belle collard greens paint, and I paint the face of the Cameo, and then I go and I paint all the leaves on that little Viridis molds that I put over there to the side. And because I didn't actually paint that mat that goes all the way around it, I'm being really, really careful when I paint that mold so I don't accidentally get any of that dark green paint on the mat. So it takes a pretty good while to get all of that done. And then when all of that paint is dry and it's all set up, then I'm going to go back in with a gold gilding wax, and I'm going to put it on my finger, and I'm going to rub it over all of those leaves, and I'm going to put it around the edges of the Cameo and on that little necklace. And then I also put that gold gilding wax on all the details of my little Persephone. And then I go back and I put a little bit more on the frame. But that mat's looking pretty sad with it being so plain. So then I pull out my IOD Floral Swag stamp, and it's the longer piece, and it goes around really well, and I stamp it with the IOD Stone Gray ink, and it only takes 2 swipes of it to get it all stamped out, and it just adds a little bit extra to it so that it's more cohesive all the way around that mat. So what do you think of my darker green little Persephone and the way that I have put her into this frame with that beautiful decoupage paper? And in the link below, I will share that link to that decoupage paper, as well as the link to all of the new IOD Summer Release collection, if you are interested in any or all of the new pieces today. Now, my last project is a thrifted frame, and this piece of cardboard is actually the back of it. And so I paint it with Rust-Oleum Chiffon Cream, and then on the frame, then I paint that with a Waverly in the color of ink, which is a black, and I paint all of it. And then I needed that cardboard to be like a whiter or a cream color because I'm going to be attaching some recycled Harlequin paper to it. And then I just put it down with Mod Podge, and then this time I just use a little piece of cellophane wrap to push out any sort of little wrinkles. And I need that decoupage paper to go all the way to the edge, so I don't try to tear it. I just cut it off with a pair of scissors and trim it off that way. And then when I put it inside of that frame, once again, I'm going to be making a clay mold out of the Persephone mold and putting that on with Titebond Thick and Quick. And because it's really heavy, when I put it down, it cracked a little bit, so I took a paintbrush and I dipped it in water and spread it over that clay, and it smoothed it out. Then I painted it with black, and now I'm going and I'm making some of the letters from the IOD Victoria mold, and it's the capital alphabet letters, and I'm making those with hot glue. And I make the letters L, X, and V, which are the Roman numerals, which are 65, which is actually how old I will be on my birthday. So I thought, well, I'll go ahead and do those. And I painted them white initially, but I went back and I painted them black, and I glued them right down below the mold. and I kind of, I didn't put them all straight together. I kind of put one up and then a little one down and the other one back up again, just to kind of add some interest to it. Then once all that had set up, then I went back with some gilding wax, but this time I used a copper wax because I thought it would fit better with the colors that was in this Harlequin paper. And then not only did I put it on the mold and then on those letters, I also went around the details on this frame and put that copper wax on that as well. But this might be a color that you wouldn't naturally think of when you use this mold, but I wanted to give you a different perspective. And this would look really pretty in like a library or a study. But I think she's just beautiful in these colors as well. So what do you think of this darker colors as opposed to the pinks and the creams? So friends, thank you so much for stopping by my channel today. I hope that I have inspired you and then you've enjoyed watching me as I use this one mold in 4 different ways. So make sure that you go to the link below to Decoupage Central to get your new IOD summer collection. And also in the comments below, let me know what was your favorite today and what other pieces in this IOD summer collection that you're interested in getting, because they're all wonderful. And I'm so excited about in the future sharing different ideas from all of the new pieces in the summer collection. So make sure that you come back to my channel and see what I make with the other pieces from this collection. So once again, make sure that you like this video if you enjoyed it and subscribe to my channel, and I will see you in my next video. Have a great day.